Okay. Um, I'm seeing that people are slowly trickling in here to this webinar, so I'll just say a few words of welcome on behalf of all of us gathered here behind the scenes. Bonjour à toutes et à tous, bienvenue aux panélistes et aux membres du public. Je vous remercie de vous être joints à nous aujourd'hui en si grand nombre. Ce fut un plaisir pour nous, l'équipe d'Espace 4, de collaborer avec Maude Lecourt et Camilla Carry pour clôturer cette session du programme CitéStudio Montréal avec la remise des prix des projets gagnants de la vitrine Voilà. Nous aimerions commencer par reconnaître que l'Université Concordia est située en territoire autochtone, lequel n'a jamais été cédé. Nous reconnaissons la nation Kanien'kehá:ka comme gardienne des terres et des eaux sur lesquelles nous nous réunissons aujourd'hui. Tiohtià:ke, ou Montréal, est historiquement connu comme un lieu de rassemblement pour de nombreuses Premières Nations et aujourd'hui une population autochtone diversifiée ainsi que d'autres peuples y résident. C'est dans le respect des liens avec le passé, le présent et l'avenir que nous reconnaissons les relations continues entre les peuples autochtones et autres personnes de la communauté montréalaise. Fourth Space is interested in connecting with the process, exploration, and development of projects related to research, initiatives, and pedagogy brewing at Concordia University. It's therefore our pleasure to participate in the CityStudio program via today's event. And on that note, I'd like to welcome our colleague, Senior Lead in Cities and Partnerships, Maude Lecourt, to take the floor. Welcome, Maude.
Thanks, Hannah. Thanks for the introduction. So welcome everybody to that Voilà 2020 show or showcase of our student project through the fall semester. I'll just go through the course of the event. Je vais juste vous partager le déroulement de l'activité. Si je pouvais avoir la présentation, please. And then we'll have different guest speakers taking part into presenting their project, but also the jury giving us why they choose those projects and enjoyed it. So next slide, please. Okay, so first you'll have a chance to get an introduction on CityStudio Montreal and know what it is exactly and how it works. So this is for any faculty member or Montreal City employees who would like to be part of this exciting program for winter 2021 or summer or even next semester. Donc, pour les employés de la Ville de Montréal qui se seraient joints à nous, ça sera votre occasion vraiment d'avoir un aperçu de ce qu'est CitéStudio Montréal. We'll then introduce our jury. We have 4 judges that were part of this jury. We'll go through the original concept prize. So the team will be presenting for 3 minutes and then answering a few questions from the judge. The same for the prize called Impact Potential. And we'll have 2 other teams that receive some special mention from our jury. And you'll have a choice to make during that presentation today. So le coup de cœur du public or the People's Choice Award. So we'll have a poll towards the end of the event and everybody will be free to vote for themselves as a student if you wish, or for some of your colleagues, or for the project that you like the most. And we'll have really quick closing remarks at the end. So without further ado, I'll let Camilla, the CityStudio coordinator, go over what it is, give you a quick explanation, and we also have a great video. So I think we'll start with the video right now before Camilla will then explain different steps of the CityStudio program. Thanks.
CitéStudio, c'est un programme basé sur la collaboration pour répondre aux défis urbains de Montréal. Les employés de la ville identifient des défis qui sont ensuite connectés à des cours à l'université. Ce sont alors les étudiants qui élaborent des pistes de solutions pour répondre à ces défis.
Le défi qui est porté par le Bureau de la transition écologique et de la résilience porte sur les comportements de solidarité qui ont émergé dans le contexte de pandémie présent. Donc, par exemple, l'achat local, le transport actif, la solidarité entre voisins. C'est qu'on veut comprendre qu'est-ce qui va faire en sorte que ces comportements-là, qui sont bénéfiques pour l'ensemble de la communauté, pourront se poursuivre au-delà du contexte qu'on vit présentement.
This semester, my class is doing an urban challenge that's looking at how the City of Montreal can better assess the impacts of large development projects on vulnerable populations.
So the Urban Challenge aims to answer the question, how could we better use public spaces in Montreal? And this is extremely relevant in 2020, where we have turned to public spaces as our third spaces. They've become our sites where we eat, where we play, where we do sports, where we work out.
This year's challenge is to address the issue of heat island effects in Montreal. This is very important at the present juncture because of climate change.
Aussi, CitéStudio, c'est une occasion pour nos employés de faire rayonner leur grande expertise et leur grand engagement à l'externe.
CityStudio allows us to operate outside of the normal constraints of the classroom by encouraging students to think in a very applied way about these challenges that can sometimes seem abstract and really big.
CitéStudio nous permet, du côté de la ville, de travailler d'une façon vraiment différente parce que c'est un espace où on peut sortir de l'opérationnel, de ce qu'on fait au quotidien.
CityStudio allows for ways to operate outside of the normal scope, where you get to collaborate with city officials almost on a weekly basis. You get to find out about the latest developments happening at the city itself and within the city.
CityStudio is a perfect context for students to take their learning outside the classroom and apply it in the real world. One of the things that I noticed right away was that students became deeply engaged with the materials. They were excited about learning because it meant something to them. It meant that they could then apply this to social issues that they themselves find extremely interesting.
This year, we can expect the student projects to be engaged in really nuanced and critical thinking about how we can achieve a just socio-ecological transition.
On attend des projets étudiants cette année, certainement beaucoup de créativité, une diversité de points de vue sur un même défi. On attend de voir ça avec grande impatience.
Merci, Anna. Donc, Camilla, si tu veux compléter avec un peu les étapes de CitéStudio, nous donner un aperçu.
So, hi everyone, and thank you to be here to congratulate our students for their jobs for this semester. So, as we've seen in the video, CitéStudio is an innovative way to find solutions to urban challenges through the collaboration between cities and universities. So how it works? Firstly, once a year, city staff is convened to identify urban issues specific to Montreal that requires further insight. Then we match these challenges with university courses. Once a match is confirmed, students start to work with city staff to find possible solutions to the urban challenge. The projects are then presented to the public. This year, you can find all the 20 projects on our website, CitéStudio Montréal. Finally, we try to scale the projects to be applied in specific sectors of the city. So this semester, we had 4 main questions. So maybe you can go to the other slide. Yes, so we had 4 main questions at whom more than 80 students tried to find solutions, presenting 20 projects. And so, as you've heard right now, these are the main questions that were answered. And maintenant, je laisse la parole à Marie-André Rodrigue, conseillère en innovation et expérimentation au laboratoire d'innovation urbaine de Montréal, qui est aussi notre porte d'entrée des CitéStudio à la ville. Donc, Marie-André.
Merci Camilla, bonjour à tous. Donc, notre jury est composé de 4 membres. Et Laura Vix, qui est analyste pour le pôle Ville et collectivité chez Espace-Temps. Thomas Adams, qui est conseiller au bureau de la transition écologique et de la résilience. D'ailleurs, il s'excuse, il est en route, il a eu un imprévu ce matin, mais il sera bien présent parmi nous pour s'adresser aux étudiants. Next, we also have Jorge Garza, who is a program agent for McConnell Foundation. And finally, Michael Bossert, Manager for Research and Innovation for the Next Generation Cities Institute. C'est déjà le moment de vous présenter un premier prix. Donc, le prix pour le concept original a été décerné au projet Power to the Plants. Donc, je vais vous résumer rapidement les raisons pour lesquelles le jury a attribué le prix à ce projet. Le projet Power to the Plants est aussi le coup de cœur de Roger. Il en dira un petit peu plus là-dessus aux étudiants dans un moment lui-même. Donc, les raisons du jury. Le jury a trouvé que le projet était original et qu'il était très inclusif dans le sens qu'il incluait plusieurs aspects de l'enjeu qui était abordé. Et aussi, vous avez su mobiliser un scénario qui mettait concrètement en scène l'expérience que vous avez imaginée. Vous avez aussi réussi à aborder des enjeux d'exclusion et vous avez contextualisé historiquement des enjeux par rapport à la biodiversité. Donc, ça nous a aidé à bien cadrer, comprendre la réflexion. And finally, you were able to use modern tools to work on multiple and coherent objectives. So, congrats. And now I will let the students tell us a little about their project.
Thank you for that introduction, Marie-Andrée. We're very honored for this prize. Thank you so much. So I'm going to tell you guys a bit about Power to the Plants. Our objective was to have an interactive experience that can be applied to a wide range of different people and of all ages in all different areas. So we created an interactive experience that would be put into different heated zones, or areas of Montreal that just needed that extra attention. And it would be a podcast that is aiming to educate the listeners. So you would come up to the planter, which we would have different planters located throughout Montreal, and you would come across a little QR code. And on that QR code, you'd be able to scan it with your mobile device, which would then lead you to a podcast. The podcast would then give you a whole background of what plants are in the planters, what its cares are, what the historic uses are, anything like this. And our goal was to have plants that were native to North America and specifically Canada. What was new and distinctive about our project is that it's a very interactive project. It's, as I said, it's a podcast, so it's making people listen. It's making people just more aware of their surroundings. So some examples of plants that we wanted to include were echinacea, chamomile, serviceberry, blueberry, cranberries. These are all plants that are native to Canada and North America. You'll see here we have a little idea of what a planter would look like. It's small, it's easy to incorporate around the city. This would also tackle the issue of decolonization, which is an issue that we really wanted to bring awareness to in this project as well. We also wanted to kind of focus on having edible plants and to really increase plant literacy for the people that come across this. It kind of gives you, teaching you a history of where your food's coming from and how it has to be taken care of. The outcomes of this project, it would increase awareness for Indigenous plants. It also would promote food security, reduce heat island effect of Montreal, and create an interactive experience with nature for all ages. There were a few ideas we also wanted to include, which was having a scavenger hunt style that could be fun for younger age groups or any age group really, where the QR codes lead you to another location and another planter to go and find more information about. Some things that we thought were really important when it came to the planters was we wanted to have upcycled materials to build these planters. There's a program that actually CityStudio brought to our attention called correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's Architecture Sans Frontières, who takes recycled products and allows you to recreate something else with those recycled products. So that was something we really wanted to incorporate as part of our project. We also wanted to make sure that the fertilizer and everything would be locally, and just include the benefits, the environmental benefits of having those extra plants around the city being one of the other outcomes that would come from this project. The first episode would be an episode that's just introducing what the project is, how it works, everything like that. It would keep it very simple. We would then have every other episode would be targeted according to which plant you're looking at, and it would be very specific and personalized. Some things that we wanted to include too was we would want it to be accessible for all people. So we would have a hearing impaired option. So it would offer the transcripts of all the episodes so that anyone who is hearing impaired would be able to look back and read about it. We also wanted to have a visually impaired adaptation for it as well, which would include a detailed description of what the physical description of this plant is, what the color of the plants are, the texture, the heights, anything like that. So it would really kind of include everyone from all backgrounds.
Thank you, Lauren. J'invite maintenant les juges à poser quelques questions pour approfondir le projet.
Je vais commencer. Bonjour à tous. Thanks everyone. Congratulations first to the team. It was actually a really great project. I would love to know if you have an idea of what would be the next step for you to make this project come true.
To make it come true, I think a lot more episodes and planters would need to be created, have more accessibility to being able to figure out which regions needed a bit more attention. One of the areas that we wanted to focus on was the Hochelaga area. So having just the resources to be able to actually incorporate the QR code scanning to the podcast is something that we would need.
Thanks. I have a second question for you. What did you like the most about the CitéStudio experience and your collaboration with the city staff?
They offered us so much help and brought perspectives to us that we had never even thought of. When we first brought the idea forward, it was very basic. We didn't really consider what kind of obstacles we would come, and they were the ones who brought up Architecture sans frontières to us, which was something that we were looking for, that we didn't even know where to look. So they offered us a lot of helpful tools to really make this project possible.
Awesome. So I guess I'll go next now. And before I share my questions, I just wanted to congratulate the team again and just share with you that as I was looking at this work, I was really seeing the beautiful interconnection between technology, play, and the storytelling to build a bold narrative around food systems, inclusion, and sustainability. This was the reason why I chose this project personally, and I think that this is especially relevant right now in terms of physical distancing. This is bringing people together, and around two big components. So one is climate change, and the other one is inclusion and exclusion, right? So and at the neighborhood scale. So this was all my thinking as I was looking at that. My two questions are: the first one, if you could do anything different right now, what would it be and why?
We would love to include some more interactive experiences in it. So like I said, we wanted to include a scavenger hunt. We didn't really have the chance or the time to really incorporate that fully, to make it more of a game style and fun, and offer a few more features within it would be really something we would love to incorporate.
Okay, thanks. And the second one is around the podcast. Why did you choose this method to connect people?
So that's actually kind of funny. It's actually because of COVID times right now. When the restaurants were open for that little bit, we saw the QR codes as menu to get to the menu. And I've been listening to podcasts like crazy. I'm sure everyone has. We're trying to find ways to fill our days up right now. And we were just thinking, how can we incorporate these two things with this project? And the QR code to the podcast, to the project, it just kind of all fell into place really well. And it was just a great way to make it more interactive and get you off your couch and listening to something different.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you again, Lauren. Thank you to our judges. Je passerai maintenant la parole à Maude pour présenter notre second prix.
Oui, merci Marie-André. Donc, on arrive au deuxième prix, qui était le potentiel d'impact. So, the highest potential for impacts on what they're proposing. So, the winning team is Bridging the Gaps. They will be presenting the same way, 3 minutes. But before they do so, I'd just like to share with you some of the reason why the jury found they were really deserving this prize. So one of the main reasons was la prise en compte des enjeux de résilience et de vulnérabilité qui ont été intégrés dans le projet, dans le processus décisionnel pour vraiment cibler des interventions clés. Donc, c'était une des raisons. La pertinence du choix du sujet, so the relevance of the subject choice in the context of redefining a rapid and evolutive dynamic sector. They also comment, the jury also mentioned that it was well documented and presented. The poster was great. Potential for strong impact on the implementation of large urban projects in the targeted area, and an approach that can be reproduced, replied to other similar projects. So, c'est vraiment souvent une raison pour un très grand impact, c'est que la démarche peut être réapplicable à d'autres endroits, à d'autres projets similaires. Donc, félicitations à cette équipe et je vais laisser les personnes en charge présenter. Donc, je vous laisse le plancher. It's up to you, the Bridging the Gap team, to present your project. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for this award. It's really neat to have this award. So I'm going to briefly mention, I'm Aaron, by the way, and I'm joined by my colleague Miria, who's going to be explaining a little bit about our project. So I'm going to start by introducing what we did. So we looked at vulnerability in the context of mobility in the Montreal context. So first, we defined vulnerable populations as the youth, the elderly, the low income, the women, the recent immigrants, and also those with physical and social disabilities. And we realized that these groups don't necessarily have access to all the opportunities, whether it be jobs, whether it be recreation or leisure. These groups are often ignored by current planning practices. So what we wanted to do was paint a picture of how they are in the Montreal context. So what we went about doing was we did a gap report to analyze how this data is available and what data we could find in this regard concerning vulnerable populations and the concept of mobility in Montreal. And then what we did was we found what information was missing, found information that was lacking, and we tried to figure out how we could apply it to a sector. So the sector that we had was the Bridge Bonaventure sector. So what we tried doing was trying to figure out how we could paint the picture of vulnerable populations in the Bridge Bonaventure sector. And we found through our case study that there is a high amount of vulnerable populations. And by potential projects, whether it be the REM or the Peel Bassin redevelopment, there's going to be a lot of concern for vulnerable populations, and these groups need to be considered. So I'm going to pass you on to Maria, who's going to be explaining a little bit more about our project.
So in terms of how the project worked, our team's research and analysis of mobility within the context of vulnerability in Montreal was conducted in 2 stages, like Aaron kind of said before. First, our literature review on mobility and vulnerability related indicators, missing and available data for analysis, potential data innovations and their feasibility in Montreal, and our development of recommendations for better analysis of vulnerability and mobility in the future, all work to aid us in conducting the second stage of the project and impact assessment of development opportunities in the Bridge Bonaventure sector. So based on indicators and available data from the first stage of the project, the major outcomes came from assessing the impacts associated with potential developments in Bridge Bonaventure. These include moving the Bridge Bonaventure Expressway to make way for a linear park along the St. Lawrence River, advancements in transit-oriented development opportunities related to the coming REM line and station in Griffintown, and changes to the local bus network, as well as developments in Peel Basin, like the potential baseball stadium. Positive impacts were largely associated with encouraging economic vitality and more accessible transportation opportunities for pedestrians, cyclists, and public transit users to reduce overall congestion in the area. Negative impacts were related to potential increasing gentrification in the community as a result of tourist infrastructure and increasing property values associated with large investments in transportation services. As a result, methods for maximizing the positive effects and minimizing the negative ones focused on notions of equitable transit-oriented development. These tools should aid stakeholders of the City of Montreal, CitéStudio, and the local community contribute to and monitor the area's future mobility, accessibility, and vulnerability-related plans and goals.
Thank you. So thank you both for that great overview of your project. I know it's quick, 3 minutes. I'm sure there's more to say to it. And that's why I encourage all people attending today to visit the CityStudio website, because maybe I didn't mention it earlier, but today we have a few winners and prizes, but it's way more than the students that are with us today that participate. So over the 4 different courses, I think we have something like 20 or so projects that are all presented on the website, and you can go through each of their poster, and they also have a little audio around 2-3 minutes or less. So you can, listen to the audio at the same time that you go over their poster, and you have a great idea of those different projects. So thanks to this team, I'll now ask the 2 judges who, as part of the 4-people jury, who have comments and questions to share with you. So I'll start with Michael Busser from Concordia University. If Michael, you want to ask a few questions to the student.
Yes, thanks a lot, Maud, and thanks a lot, Mirja and Aaron, for this presentation of this very nice project. It's, I think it's a very interesting corner of Montreal, where there could happen a lot. And it's, I think as well, it shows it's actually in a very special place located, surrounded by some very nice corners, but itself, it's very poor district how it is constructed and by infrastructure. So thanks a lot for developing such a comprehensive solutions and ideas for it. And you presented a bunch of ideas and I think solutions. And I wonder if you have to choose of them, what next steps would you recommend improving this situation?
So because it was kind of divided into 2 stages, we have recommendations on kind of a more data and research side, and then we have more infrastructural and physical environment recommendations. But on the analysis and research side, we from case studies, we were really compelled by open data innovations that integrated more transportation and vulnerability related data into public platforms, as well as the use of apps like cycling and reward-based apps to encourage public transit use, as well as research-based partnerships like conducting a housing and transportation cost burden study to better understand issues of affordability. And then on the more built environment side that had to do with the second stage, we looked at for example, moving the Bridge Bonaventure Expressway to make way for a linear park on the other side. We thought that was really cool, but there's lots of accidents that also happen there. So we had recommendations like, okay, if you do this, then you really need to put pedestrian crosswalks and traffic lights and make it really pedestrian oriented and less of a space for just cars if you want to be enhancing this as a natural green space for people.
So maybe, Michael, I don't know if you have another question. We have time for another one now before I go to our second judge.
I can have a second one, but if no one from the audience has one. For me, it's interesting that you started with the transportation part and the infrastructure. I think this is key. But if it continues with the process, what kind of topics or how would you set up the process? Do you think it's important to engage with the society there, with the citizens? You were mentioning something about it, and I think it's connected to the transportation issue as well.
For sure. So we definitely think that it's whether you do it for transportation or you do it on heritage, or you do it because heritage is very strong in this area and preserving heritage is very strong in the Bridge Bonaventure sector. There's definitely ways to go about doing it. One of the big steps that we did was we just did an analysis identifying the vulnerable populations in the area. And whether you're looking at transportation or you're looking at heritage, you still have to identify these vulnerable populations. So that framework could be applied to different settings depending on what you're looking at. But then what happens is it depends on the impacts that you're looking at and the projects that you're looking at to analyze the potential impacts. And for this sector specifically, it has already undergone a a public consultation through the Office public de consultation de Montréal. So we based a lot of our work based on the research that came out of that and the evidence that came out of that. But going forward, it would be neat to be doing this to a sector where we do this analysis and then we do a public consultation.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Aaron. So I'll now, je vais maintenant passer la parole à notre autre juge, Monsieur Thomas Adam de la Ville de Montréal. Donc, si vous aviez, je pense que vous avez certains commentaires et questions pour notre équipe, fait que je vous laisse la parole. On ne vous entend pas, il faudrait débloquer votre micro. Vous allez taper.
So how would we ensure that the results are known to the key stakeholders? That was the question from Thomas, and thanks for the question. There's a couple of things that we would do. First off, when you're doing an analysis of transportation, it's kind of hard to make this information available to stakeholders because it would create development concerns and it would add development pressures. So once this data is released or when it's shared, then it becomes problematic because there's more incentive to develop. And that's something that we're noticing more and more as we went through the semester. How would we ensure that our results are known to key stakeholders? What we actually had the opportunity to do this semester was we are collaborating very closely with Annie Laurin from the mobility department, and we are presenting to the city later this afternoon. So we're consulting with city officials and sharing our ideas. We've also made 2 reports that we've shared with our professor, Alexandra Woznikowski, and she sent it to Annie, who's forwarded to some people in the city. It hasn't really gone out to developers yet because it's still within the city phase, but we are sharing those reports of information that we have compiled.
Merci. Je ne sais pas si Thomas avait une autre question qui peut-être est partagée dans le chat ou si c'est bon pour vous.
So the second question, I'll read it for those who aren't seeing the chat. Do you have plans to update the analysis through the coming phase of local transformation? I mean, we'd love to, but we don't know if we'd have the time or the energy to do it. We were doing this for a class project. I'd personally be very interested in continuing this work, but there's so much development happening in the area that it's always hard to look at what impacts could be done.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So that was great. And now we'll go back to not the two coup de cœur, because altogether each judge was also asked to identify a favorite project or a coup de cœur. And some of the coup de cœur were the same than the 2 projects that we just had presentation, so from the Bridging the Gap and the other one. But we have 2 other extra, so cherry on top of a coup de cœur project. So I'll let Marie-André maybe present the first one.
Merci Maude. I'm very honored to present the jury's choice. Donc, le coup de cœur de Elora et Thomas était le projet From French to Hinge. So I will let Elora and Thomas tell you why they have chosen that project. Maybe we could start with Elora, if you're ready.
Yeah, of course, I can start and Thomas can just write and complete my answer if you want to. So I really appreciated your approach. I think you guys really got us through a really complete process from creating a framework to identify areas that are suitable for the expansion of public spaces to actually proposing ideas and solutions that are answering to those problems on like short and long term. So yeah, I really love also your audio presentation. I think it was great. You make it easy to understand your process and you put an extra effort into illustrating your ideas, which was a nice bonus for us. Thank you.
Merci. Elora, Thomas, est-ce que tu veux? Oui, je vois que tu as ajouté quelque chose. Donc, Thomas a mentionné l'analyse multifactorielle riche et rigoureuse qui propose clairement des cibles et des priorités pour la création d'espaces publics. l'utilisation de projections relatives à l'évolution rapide du contexte réglementaire et administratif, et finalement l'approche qui est réplicable pour d'autres localités. Yeah, that's all right, Thomas. I think most people here are bilingual anyway. So I will now invite the team to tell us a little about their project.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, you could just go ahead and present full screen.
Perfect. Okay. Are we perfect? Hello, everyone. Francis, Dylan, Jordan, and I are here to present our project From Fringe to Hinge. It is a two-step process that promotes equity and agency in the urban landscape. First, it presents a framework that uses physical potential and socioeconomical analysis to identify boroughs most suitable for the expansion of public space. Second, it presents a multifaceted approach for creating complete communities through the transformation of fringe sites, such as surface parking, into inclusive, productive, and entrepreneurial space. To select a suitable borough, we measured proximity to positive features, such as the metro stations, and negative features, such as contaminated sites. We then conducted a socioeconomic analysis using 15 criteria that warranted expansion, such as density, but also indicated unequal opportunity, such as income. These analyses were scored and aggregated to rank overall borough suitability. We then identified borough zones with our top ranked boroughs locating underutilized fringe space within these zones and proposed our vision for community reinforcing interventions within this space.
Next, this presents our final analysis for Montreal North, highlighting the various fringe spaces and the socio-economic profile for each census tract. This resulted in the identification of two areas of interest. First, the P9 corridor, Mark A. Here, we see a car-dominated environment at odds with the future influx of transit users and the development of a bus rapid transit service. Briefly, what we suggest is reclaiming car space by reinforcing multifunctionality of use. This could mean, for instance, installing various pop-up infrastructure that enable local vendor to benefit from the increased economic activity in the area. Second, we have the Northeast zone, marked B on the map. It's a densely populated, low-income residential area that lacks green space and has been identified as a food desert. It also contains a continuous strip of fringe space consisting of schoolyards and non-built-up area. So in the spirit of increasing access within underserved community, we propose integrating and expanding the site into a public corridor that includes community-based entrepreneurial spaces.
So what is unique about our project is that we're proposing a framework for public space expansion that reinterprets recent zoning bylaws in other cities to match Montreal North's built form. So for instance, in Toronto's tower neighborhoods where massive lots and dated zoning laws actually limit access to amenities, the new rack zone bylaw has allowed for 500 tower sites to become complete communities. So this means the construction of on-site infrastructure that could house important services such as daycares or libraries or grocery stores. And so while Montreal North's built form is quite different, it does suffer from a similar lack of access. The Northeast zone that Francis mentioned is dominated by low-rise apartment buildings that cover a large portion of their lots, and this leaves little room for important services and amenities. So our proposal is to reverse this by transforming all these underutilized fringe sites into productive spaces that help offer some of these missing services and help complete the community.
Thank you, guys. Je vais maintenant inviter les juges à poser quelques questions. On a environ 2 minutes donc pour des questions à nos étudiants. Je propose de prendre la même formule. Donc, Elora parle d'abord. Ça va laisser le temps à Thomas d'écrire ses commentaires. Puis Thomas, je pourrais lire tes commentaires pour les invités présents. Donc, je laisse la parole à Elora.
Merci Marie-André. Merci pour la présentation. I have one question for you guys. I would love to know, how do you think the CityStudio experience helps you for your future career?
Yeah, I think absolutely this could help, since urban planning is so complex. It's best when rooted in reality. And with CityStudio, not only is it based on real life issues, but it provides insight into the reality of a planner in the context of Montreal. It shows how the city operates, what's the current priorities and where it's trying to go. It allows us to meet and interact with people in the field as well. That sort of insight is definitely provides an edge. And we're really, really glad for that experience.
Thank you. Thomas, do you want to add something? So the question is, how do we ensure that this process does not exacerbate gentrification?
I could speak to that. So first and foremost, this project is about community reinforcement. We're proposing interventions that complete the community and increase the quality of life for those who are already living in the area. We're not seeking to change the face of the area, instead to reinterpret how we interact with this space and optimize these underutilized spaces. So for instance, small scale interventions that provide flexibility or functionality, such as like shipping containers or community gardens in an existing schoolyard, let's say. This would be beneficial, but not necessarily be a magnet for attention or lead to gentrification the same way that like a new craft brewery or like a fake beach would. But next semester, we'll be determining who needs to be involved. We'll be engaging with stakeholders, including residents and local organizations, and that will help refine our design and propose interventions so they meet the needs of the community and hopefully avoid accelerating gentrification.
Thank you so much. Donc, nous allons maintenant vous présenter notre second prix coup de cœur. Je laisse la parole à Maude.
Oui, merci Marie-André. Donc oui, je vais juste réajuster ce que j'ai dit tantôt pour que ça soit clair pour tout le monde. The power to the plant. So the first project that was presented won the concept original, but also a coup de cœur from one of our judges. Then the Bridging the Gap won the potential impact. The From Fringe to Hinge that we just saw received 2 coups de cœur, so from 2 different judges. And this next one received also a coup de cœur from one of our judges. And the project is the Ecosphere Schoolyard project. And I'll let Michael give maybe a minute about or less about the reason why he thought this project was a great project. And then the team will present. To you, Michael.
Thanks a lot, Maud. Yeah, for me, the project, the Ecosphere Schoolyard, is a very unique project. The team described and developed the Ecosphere as an important contact zone for persons of all ages, ethnicities, cultures, religions, and socioeconomic backgrounds. All this on the ground of a schoolyard in Montreal. So they choose an educational space for educating community about facts and knowledge about heat zones, ecosystems, and more. For me, this project hits the core of the idea of the SDGs of the UN, like empowering community, educating sustainability, breaking down barriers, and supporting knowledge exchange about various topics. So for me, this is really coup de cœur. Yeah. So maybe I just hand over to the students to present it, this great project.
Thanks, Michael. Yes, so if the team of the Ecosphere Schoolyard can go and give us a teaser about your project.
Yes, I can't seem to be able to start my video because it's blocked.
Yep.
But
Julie, we're going to help you out right away.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Julie, so thank you so much. Oh, wait, yeah. Here. Thank you so much. We're really honored to be here, and I'm really impressed about all the projects that have been presented until now. It's really incredible. And well, it's really funny because our project kind of goes with the fringe to hinge that was explained just before. So throughout our class, we were really talking about how we have a lack with the relation to nature, especially in urban areas, to intergenerational relationships. And we were really looking for a solution that would combine all these problems and also our main goal to reduce these heat zones. And we really were eager to include these educational purposes for children to have more contact with nature, because we really believe that if we really want to protect the environment, we have to have a relationship to it. Because, yeah, So when we were looking at the heat zone map, we noticed that a lot of schoolyards and schools were in the middle of these heat zones, and we looked around and all these schoolyards were full of concrete and really the middle of these heat zones. So we decided to actually use these schoolyards to create a space that could also then be used for the community. So it was in 3 pamphlets: garden, education, and community. So basically, the idea would be to use these schoolyards to create a greener space, include more plants and also trees, and really create a space where children can interact with nature, really go and especially since it is the time where it is the most flourishing years for them. But the space that should also be used during the weekends for the community to reassemble and really use the space also for a community garden. That was the idea that we had. So and that children can also have this connection with this garden and know where the food comes from. So yes, so that's kind of the idea. I have also Juliette, who is going to talk, who worked with me on the project.
Yes, hi. Thank you for presenting that beginning. My internet actually just got off and came back midway. But yeah, the goal of this project really is to bring kids a space where they can truly discover nature. Like in cities especially, a lot of kids don't have the access to nature, the obvious access to nature that other kids would have. So the goal we have is to recreate that environment. So in specifics of what we want, within the garden, we've planned like a little playground with a hill. That way the kids can have a more natural and organic feel for the environment. I don't know if Julie mentioned because they got cut out, but the logs that you see on that photo would be to create an outdoor classroom. And we actually created a podcast about an hour long, which our professor has, and I'm wondering if there's any way of sharing it, but it goes through the podcast. We interviewed experts in the fields of biology. We had my biology professor, a teacher, and then kids themselves, and they all brought in their perspective on why this would work and would be so beneficial. So I definitely invite you guys to check this out if you'd like to really dive in depth about how this could work, because it's a project in Montreal, but it can be expanded worldwide, really. So.
And also, if you don't mind, I would also quickly share, I kind of forgot about this, but our idea, we made a kind of idea of a school that is actually next to where I live in Montreal. And it is full of concrete, and it was kind of the idea that we were looking for. So we would have, where the number 2 is, garden beds to have like a community garden that could be used by the whole community. We would have trees to provide natural shade. It is so a really big space where children can interact with the nature. Also at 3, a little bit more wild nature where they can just like interact with it. We wanted also an outside space where they could have classrooms. So that is at the number 4 with the chalkboard that could also be used by the community if they want to find new solutions and have little reunions where they can communicate about the issues or needs and wants of the whole community. So it is really a space where also everyone can be reunited, intergenerational, where everyone can interact.
And Julie, I don't think the map is showing because you need to change. Yeah.
Oh, you can see it? Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it did stay on the same spot, but it's okay. I mean, people can have a look on the website, and I think the explanation you gave were great. And I'm always amazed by how much creativity and thinking outside of the box the student have. So it's just amazing. Thank you both for this presentation. So maybe
and I just want to apologize really quick. My internet cut like 2 minutes before we started presenting, so I apologize for the
no problem. It's our reality now, and I know you kind of live in a van or something. So All students, we have to adapt to the reality of everybody. That's okay. So I don't know if any of the jury would like to ask a few questions. I don't want to put always Michael on the spotlight, but I know you. I think you're the one who identified it as a coup de cœur. So anybody's got a question before we go to this People Choice Award? No, I think it's all. Donnie raised his hand, so I don't know, Donnie, if you can. I don't know if you have a possibility of unmuting yourself, but if you do, go ahead. I'm not sure, so maybe Donnie, if not, if you can just.
We've permitted talking.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Donnie.
Okay. So go ahead, Donnie.
Hi. So yeah, that was a really interesting project. I especially like that it's been applied to the schoolyards, as well as being able to be open to the general community. It addresses a problem that many people don't necessarily think about in terms of like where our food comes with, and getting that closer contact is really interesting. Especially in terms of like accessing it to the new generation, but also to the local context. So it's really interesting. Thank you for that.
Thank you for your feedback.
Thanks for the feedback. Okay, so we'll now just show you again, because you have to vote, but before going to the poll, we'll just have a quick overview on the project that we just saw, also to highlight the fact that there's people behind it. We put the spotlight on the student, that's great, and you have all their names on the slide here. And I think their names to be remembered. So if you're looking for a high potential student to hire, talking to the Ville de Montréal, I think that can be a first good start. But I also want to highlight the fact that we have the Concordia faculty member who are teaching those courses and work really hard to integrate the CityStudio project as part of their regular teaching. And of course, we have the municipal experts, so the city employees who are so generous of their time. So let's just have a quick look for the Power to the Plants. It was en collaboration avec le service de la gestion et de la planification immobilière et Monsieur Nicolas Marié. Au niveau de l'université, c'était dans le cadre du cours de Governance of Nature qui a été enseigné en cours de sociologie qui a été enseigné par Dr. Katia Naves. So if we go to the next one, thank you, Bridging the Gap. La collaboration s'est faite entre le service de l'urbanisme et de la mobilité. On parle ici de Annie Lorrain, qui a aussi été assistée durant les rencontres par Philippe Fortin du Laboratoire d'innovation urbaine de Montréal. Et c'était dans le cadre d'un cours d'urbanisme, donc avec le Impact Assessment, le cours d'Alexandra Leniskowski. Et vous avez ici la liste des 6 étudiants qui ont participé. Ensuite, on a eu la présentation From Fringe to Hinge. Encore là, une équipe de 4 étudiants. Et c'était avec le service de l'urbanisme et de la mobilité, mais cette fois-ci, l'expert de la ville était Clara Moshpa. Et c'était dans le cadre du cours de Donnie Seto, un cours aussi en urbanisme, Advanced Urban Laboratories. Et finalement, le 4e projet qui vous a été présenté, de Ecosphere Schoolyard Project, était avec le service de la gestion, on en a parlé, excusez, encore une fois, avec M. Nicolas Marié, dans le cadre du cours de sociologie avec Katia. Donc, c'est les 4 cours, les 4 projets qui ont été présentés. Before we just go to the polls, I just want to also mention that as part of this fall, we had a course in management that was taught by Raymond Paquin, a course teaching of MBA, and it was in collaboration with the City of Montreal, with le Bureau de la transition écologique et de la résilience. Les 2 collaboratrices étaient Vanessa Damiani et Irène Cloutier, qui ont fait un excellent travail, et les projets de ces étudiants peuvent aussi être visionnés, être vus sur la plateforme de CitéStudio. Donc, comme vous voyez, beaucoup de beaux projets. Et finalement, there's going to have a follow-up, other match for the winter. And as part of those courses, one was with Silvano de la Lata that started in September, again in urban planning, a studio lab. Et la collaboration est avec Wasila Jaziri et ça va se poursuivre au niveau de l'hiver. Donc, les présentations un peu similaires, on verra rendu là ce que la COVID nous réserve, mais des présentations un peu similaires seront au printemps, donc avril 2021, puis c'est certain, on va vous aviser. So, thanks to all those professors and city employees. So let's now go for the voting of the 4 projects. It's going to appear on your screen and you have just one choice. So please do the voting and we can get the result right away.
Okay, awesome. We're seeing that about 67% of people have voted now. Something off with my audio. And oh wow, what? We have a tie. This has not happened before. It's obviously a very, very hard choice to make here today, but we do have a tie with 29% of the votes between Bridging the Gaps and From Fringe to Hinge, with 26% of the votes, the Ecosphere Schoolyard, and Power to the Plants with 16%. Obviously, you're all winners, so this is just a bit of fun. So congratulations to all of the students and all of the teams who participated here today. We really appreciate your time and your participation. Maud, if you'd like me just to say a few closing words, unless there was something else, I'm good to go. Okay.
So I'll just say a few thanks again, if you don't mind. Okay. And the first is for you, Anna and Doug, for people at the Fourth Space, for really helping us put that event together in such a short notice. So I really appreciate your work. Thank you. And thanks again for everybody who attended today's event. And maybe a really, really special thanks to Marie-André Rodrigue de la Ville de Montréal et Camila Chiari de Espace-Temps pour avoir permis de réaliser l'ensemble de ces matchs et les résultats que vous voyez ici. Donc, sans le partenariat et la collaboration de l'Université Concordia, de la Ville de Montréal et d'Espace-Temps, ce ne serait pas possible de réaliser un programme de cette ampleur. Donc, merci beaucoup à tous et je vous souhaite une belle après-midi. Up to you, Anna, for saying goodbye.
Thanks, Maud. And I just wanted to encourage, I'm seeing it's happening. I just wanted to encourage a few words in the chat from all the folks who have joined us here today. It's really nice of you to give feedback to the students and just to the CityStudio experience. So thank you for activating the chat, everyone. Yeah, that's it. Just thank you to the students and the faculty members for participating. Obviously the Ville de Montréal in CityStudio. Your projects were really phenomenal and very inspired. Le jury, merci pour votre participation et réflexion, et membres du public aussi. Thank you for joining us here today. Just a quick reminder that a recording of today's event will be available on our website, which is concordia.ca/4, the number 4. And of course, if you're on Facebook, it's at CU Fourth Space now. Concordia University Fourth Space, so CU Fourth Space, so check it out there if you're into that. Otherwise, I will wish you a very good afternoon. Thank you for joining us during your lunch break, and we look forward to seeing you all again very soon in 2021. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Merci tout le monde, joyeuse fête. Merci, au revoir.